Thought for 14. Shave, you ever walked into a room and seen something that completely shattered your world, only to realize it might just be the beginning of something even more intense? Picture this. It's a quiet afternoon in a suburban home, the kind where everything seems picture perfect on the outside. I'm Sarah, a 38-year-old stepmom who's been trying to hold it all together after marrying into a ready-made family. My husband, Mark, is away on business trips more often than not, leaving me to navigate the tricky waters of blending families. And then there's Alex, my stepson. He's 22 now, home from college for the summer, tall, athletic, with that brooding intensity that makes you wonder what's really going on behind those dark eyes. I never expected to catch him in such a private moment, but when I did, well, let's just say I didn't walk away. I finished what he started. This is my story, raw and unfiltered, and if you're here for the drama, the forbidden tension, and the twists that keep you on the edge of your seat, buckle up because it's about to get real. It all started a few months ago, right after Alex came back from his sophomore year. The house felt different with him around, more alive but also charged with this unspoken energy. Mark and I had been married for 3 years, and while our relationship was stable, it lacked that spark, the kind that makes your heart race. Alex, on the other hand, was full of life. He was majoring in computer science, always tinkering with gadgets in his room, blasting indie rock music that echoed through the halls. I'd catch glimpses of him working out in the backyard, his shirt clinging to his sweat-slicked body, and I'd quickly look away, scolding myself for even noticing. He was my stepson, after all, off limits. But boundaries have a way of blurring when loneliness creeps in. That fateful day was a Wednesday. Mark had left early for a conference in Chicago, promising to be back by the weekend. I had the day off from my job as a graphic designer, so I decided to tackle some chores. Laundry, specifically. Alex's room was at the end of the hallway, door slightly ajar as usual. He thought I was out running errands. I'd mentioned something about grocery shopping, but I decided to stay in and surprise him with his favorite dinner later. As I approached with a basket of clean clothes, I heard it. Soft, rhythmic breathing, almost like a whisper. Curiosity got the better of me. I shouldn't have peeked, but I did. Pushing the door open just a crack, I froze. There he was, on his bed, eyes closed, headphones in, completely lost in the moment. His hand moved with purpose under the sheets, the outline clear enough to make my cheeks burn. The laptop screen glowed with, well, let's just say it was adult content, the kind that leaves little to the imagination. I should have backed away, closed the door quietly, and pretended it never happened. That's what a good stepmom would do, right? But something held me there. Maybe it was the way his face twisted in pleasure, or the forbidden thrill of seeing him so vulnerable. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of shock and something else, something I hadn't felt in years. He didn't notice me at first, his movements quickened, his breath hitching. I could have left then, but my feet were rooted to the spot, and then, his eyes snapped open, locking onto mine. Time stopped. Panic flashed across his face, his hand freezing mid-motion. "Sarah, what the—" He yanked the sheets up, scrambling to close the laptop, his face turning a deep shade of red. I dropped the laundry basket, clothes spilling everywhere. I didn't mean to. "I thought you were out," he stammered, avoiding my gaze. I should have apologized, made an excuse, and fled, but instead I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. "Alex, it's okay," I heard myself say, my voice steadier than I felt. "Everyone does it. No need to be embarrassed." He looked up, surprise replacing the panic. "Really? You're not mad?" I shook my head, sitting on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. What was I doing? This was dangerous territory. But the air was thick with tension, electric almost. I could see the bulge under the sheets hadn't fully subsided, and a reckless part of me wondered. "Let me help," I whispered, my hand reaching out before I could stop it. His eyes widened. "What?" "Sarah, no, we can't." But his protest was weak, his body betraying him as I gently pulled the sheet down. He was still hard, glistening slightly from his earlier efforts. I wrapped my fingers around him, feeling the warmth, the pulse. He gasped, leaning back against the headboard. Oh God. It was wrong, so wrong, but in that moment it felt inevitable. I started slow, matching the rhythm I'd seen him using, my other hand tracing his thigh. His hips bucked involuntarily, a low moan escaping his lips. As I continued, memories flooded back, times I'd felt ignored by Mark, the passionless nights. Here was Alex, young and eager, responding to my every touch. I leaned in, my breath hot against his skin. "Tell me if you want me to stop," I said. But he shook his head furiously. "Don't stop. Please." Emboldened, I quickened my pace, watching his face contort in ecstasy. It didn't take long. He was already on the edge when I walked in. With a shuddering cry, he came, spilling over my hand, his body arching off the bed. We sat there in silence afterward, the reality sinking in. He looked at me with a mix of awe and confusion. Sarah, that was. I wiped my hand on a tissue from his nightstand, trying to compose myself. A one-time thing, I said firmly, though my body was humming with unmet desire. We can't tell anyone. He nodded, but there was a spark in his eyes that told me this wasn't over. Little did I know, that afternoon was just the spark that ignited a fire we couldn't control. Over the next few days, the house felt different, charged, like a storm brewing. Alex started lingering around me more, helping with dishes, offering to run errands together. Innocent enough on the surface, but our eyes would meet, and I'd remember the feel of him in my hand. Mark called every night, oblivious, chatting about his meetings. I'd fake enthusiasm, all while Alex watched from across the room, a knowing smile playing on his lips. It escalated on Friday night. Mark's flight was delayed, so it was just us. We ordered pizza, watched a movie, some rom-com that neither of us paid attention to. Halfway through, Alex's hand brushed mine on the couch. I pulled away at first, but he persisted, his fingers intertwining with mine. "Sarah," he whispered, "I can't stop thinking about it." My resolve crumbled. Before I knew it, we were kissing, his lips urgent against mine. He tasted like youth and forbidden fruit. We moved to my bedroom, Mark's bedroom, the irony not lost on me. Clothes came off in a frenzy. Alex was eager, exploring my body with hands that trembled slightly from nerves. "You're so beautiful," he murmured, his mouth trailing down my neck, to my breasts. I arched into him, guiding his head lower. He hesitated at first, but then dove in, his tongue tentative but enthusiastic. Waves of pleasure built as he learned. My fingers tangled in his hair. Just like that, I encouraged, and soon I was climaxing, crying out his name. But we didn't stop there. I wanted more, needed it. I pushed him onto his back, straddling him. He was rock hard again, and as I lowered myself onto him, we both gasped. It was slow at first, savoring the fullness, the connection. Then faster, our bodies sinking in a rhythm that felt natural, inevitable. He gripped my hips, thrusting up to meet me, his eyes locked on mine. "Sarah, I'm close," he warned. I leaned down, whispering, "Come inside me." That pushed him over, and feeling him pulse within me triggered my second orgasm, intense and shattering. We collapsed together, sweaty and spent, but guilt crept in almost immediately. "This can't happen again," I said, pulling the covers over us. He nodded, but his arm around me said otherwise. We fell asleep like that, entangled in more ways than one. The weekend blurred into a haze of stolen moments. Mark's return loomed like a guillotine. Saturday morning, while he was still delayed, Alex cornered me in the kitchen. "One more time," he begged, lifting me onto the counter. It was quick, passionate, his hands everywhere, my legs wrapped around him. We laughed about the risk, but it only heightened the thrill. When Mark finally got home Sunday evening, everything changed. He hugged me, kissed my cheek, and I felt like a fraud. Alex acted normal, but I caught him staring. Dinner was tense, every glance felt loaded. That night, in bed with Mark, I faked interest, my mind replaying scenes with Alex. It was wrong but addictive. Days turned into weeks, and the affair continued in secret. Mornings when Mark left for work early, Alex would sneak into my room. We'd make love slowly, exploring each other. He was a quick learner, discovering spots that made me moan. Afternoons, quickies in the laundry room. Evenings, teasing touches under the dinner table. But tension built. Close calls, Mark almost catching us once when he came home early. Alex's jealousy flared when Mark and I went out for date night. "You're mine now," he'd whisper possessively. I tried to end it multiple times, but one look from him, and I'd cave. The breaking point came during a family barbecue. Friends over, laughter filling the air. Alex pulled me into the garage under the pretense of grabbing more drinks. "I need you," he growled, pushing me against the wall. It was rough, desperate, his hands pinning mine, thrusting deep. We finished just as voices approached, straightening clothes in a panic. That night, I confessed to myself, I was in love. Not just the lust, but the connection. Alex felt the same. "Run away with me," he said one stolen night, but reality hit, divorce, scandal, judgment. The climax came when Mark found out. He'd suspected something, hired a PI. Confrontation was explosive. "How could you?" he yelled. Alex stood by me, defiant. "I love her." Fists flew, but we left together that night. Now, months later, we're building a life. It's not easy. Family disowned us, friends judgmental. But the passion, unmatched. If I could go back, would I change it? Maybe. But finishing what he started led to this. Raw, real love. The first few weeks were normal enough. Alex spent mornings at the gym, afternoons tinkering with his laptop in his room, coding apps or something techie. I'd hear his music thumping through the walls, alternative rock bands I'd never heard of. We'd chat over breakfast, how's school? Fine. Any girlfriends? Nah, too busy. But I started noticing things. The way he'd watch me when I bent over to load the dishwasher, or how his eyes flicked to my legs when I wore shorts around the house. I chalked it up to imagination. After all, I was his stepmom, 16 years older. But there was a spark, a subtle tension that made the air feel heavier. One evening, after Mark left for another trip, Alex and I shared a bottle of wine on the patio. It was warm, stars out, crickets chirping. "You know, Sarah, Dad's lucky to have you," he said, clinking his glass against mine. I laughed it off. I'm the lucky one. But as the wine flowed, conversations deepened. He opened up about college stress, failed relationships. "Girls my age are so superficial," he confessed. "I want someone who gets it, you know?" I nodded, feeling a warmth spread through me that wasn't just from the alcohol. When we said goodnight, his hand brushed my arm, sending a shiver down my spine. I went to bed that night with thoughts I shouldn't have had. The days blurred, the tension building like a slow-burning fuse. I'd catch myself dressing nicer around the house. Fitted tops, yoga pants that hugged my curves. Alex noticed. His compliments came more frequently. "You look great today, Sarah." Innocent, right? But the looks weren't. One afternoon I was in the living room stretching after a run, and he walked in, towel around his neck from a shower. Water droplets trailed down his chest, and I couldn't help but stare. He smirked. "Like what you see?" I blushed, muttering something about needing water, and fled to the kitchen. My mind raced. What was happening? This was wrong, taboo, but the forbidden nature only made it more alluring. Now, let's get to that pivotal moment. It was a Wednesday, mid-afternoon. Mark had been gone since Monday, and I thought Alex was out with friends. I'd done laundry, folding his clothes, jeans, t-shirts, boxers that felt oddly intimate in my hands. His room was upstairs, door cracked open as always. I planned to drop the basket inside and leave, but as I approached I heard sounds. Soft moans, heavy breathing. My first thought was he had a girl over. Jealousy flared unbidden. I peeked through the crack and there he was, alone on his bed. He was propped against pillows, eyes squeezed shut, headphones blocking out the world. His laptop balanced on his thighs, screen angled away, but I could hear faint audio, porn no doubt. His hand was under the thin sheet, moving in deliberate strokes. The sheet tented, obviously, outlining his arousal. He was lost in it, lips parted, chest rising and falling. I should have backed away immediately, yelled knock knock or something. But I didn't. I watched, transfixed, a heat building between my legs that I hadn't felt in months. His pace quickened, hand gripping tighter. A bead of sweat trickled down his temple. "Fuck," he muttered, hips lifting slightly. My mouth went dry. This was my stepson, but in that moment he was just a man, vulnerable, desirable. I shifted, the floor creaking, and his eyes flew open, our gazes locked. Horror washed over his face. "Sarah! Shit!" He scrambled, yanking the sheet up, slamming the laptop shut. The headphones fell out, tinny sounds echoing briefly. I dropped the basket, socks rolling across the floor. "Alex, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude." My voice was shaky, face burning. He sat up, sheet pulled in his lap, still visibly hard. "What are you doing here? I thought you were shopping." I stepped inside, closing the door. Why? To contain the embarrassment? I finished early. "Look, it's okay, really, everyone does it." He rubbed his face, groaning. "This is so humiliating. Please don't tell Dad." Something shifted in me. Seeing him like that, so exposed, stirred a maternal instinct mixed with something primal. I sat on the bed's edge, keeping distance. "I won't. Promise. It's natural." He looked at me, eyes searching. "You're not freaked out?" I shook my head, a bold lie. I was freaked, but also aroused. The room smelled of him, musk, cologne. His erection hadn't flagged completely, the sheet twitched. What possessed me next I'll never fully understand. Maybe the wine from nights before, the loneliness, the compliments. Do you need help finishing? The words tumbled out, shocking us both. His jaw dropped. What? Sarah, no, we can't. You're my stepmom. But his eyes darkened with desire, betraying him. I inched closer, hand hovering. Just this once, to make it less awkward. He didn't stop me as I gently pulled the sheet down. He was impressive, thick, veined, tip glistening with pre-cum. I wrapped my fingers around the base, feeling the heat, the throb. He hissed, head falling back. Oh God, Sarah. I started slow, stroking upward, thumbs circling the head, his hips bucked. That feels amazing. Encouraged, I sped up, other hand cupping his balls gently. He moaned, hands fisting the sheets. The power was intoxicating, controlling his pleasure, watching his face contort. Tell me what you like, I whispered. Faster, he gasped. I complied, twisting slightly, his breathing ragged, body tensing. I'm gonna. Fuck, he erupted, hot spurts coating my hand, his abs clenching. I milked him through it until he slumped, spent. Silence fell. I grabbed tissues, cleaning up. That was... Wow, he said, dazed. I stood, legs shaky. A one-time thing, okay? He nodded, but his smile said otherwise. That night, I lay awake, replaying it. Guilt gnawed, but excitement buzzed. Mark called, I faked normalcy. Alex knocked later. Can we talk? He sat on my bed. Today was incredible. But I get if it's weird. I sighed. It is weird. But I don't regret it. We talked for hours about attraction, loneliness. It ended with a kiss, soft at first, then hungry. Hands roamed, clothes stayed on, but the line was crossed again. The next day, tension simmered. Mark's trip extended. Alex helped with breakfast, his foot brushing mine under the table. Last night was nice, he murmured. I shushed him, but smiled. Afternoon, I was in the shower when he knocked. Need soap? He joined me, water cascading over us. Soapy hands explored, mine on his chest, his on my breasts. He dropped to his knees, tongue delving between my thighs. I came hard, legs buckling. We dried off, moved to his room. My turn, I said, pushing him down. I took him in my mouth, swirling, sucking. He groaned, fingers in my hair. Sarah, yes. He finished down my throat, trembling. The affair ignited. Stolen moments, kitchen quickies, living room makeouts. One night, movie on, we cuddled under a blanket. Fingers teased. Soon I was riding him quietly, biting my lip to stifle moans. Close calls built suspense. Mark called during one session. I answered breathlessly, Alex thrusting slowly. Everything okay? Mark asked. Just exercising. Alex grinned, speeding up after hang-up. Guilt grew. We have to stop, I'd say, but he'd kiss me, and I'd melt. Feelings deepened. He confessed love. You're everything Dad isn't. I felt the same, terrified. Discovery came suddenly. Mark home early, found Alex's shirt in our bed. Confrontation. Yells. Tears. How long? Weeks. Fists, I intervened. We left, hotel-bound. Now, new life. Challenges, but passion endures. That's the story. Shocking. Intense. Thanks for listening.